All right, section 9.2, we're graphing quadratics. Anytime you have an x squared there, we call this a quadratic, so I might as well write that word down as well. Quadratic. Okay, so anytime you have an x squared and an equation, you have a graph of that, it's called a quadratic. This is the kind of arc that something makes as you throw it through the air, because gravity affects things in an x squared way, in a quadratic way. So I want to draw a generic quadratic here real quick, and then we will go on and actually graph a few. But I have to get a couple terms down. So a quadratic can either point up or point down. I've drawn one here that's pointing up on both ends. In the middle, this is the axis. You know, like the x and the y axis is just a line that you revolve around. The axis of symmetry. If I misspelled symmetry, you know what to do, fix it. So axis of symmetry, I'll abbreviate this a1h usually, just because I don't like writing all that out. But it's the axis of symmetry, and symmetry, of course, means it is a reflection. So this is the same on both sides of the line. They match up. At the very bottom here, you have a point, and this point is called the vertex. The vertex is where, like I said, is where the graph meets the axis of symmetry. It's where the graph turns around. If it's pointed up, so the line's going down, and then it hits the vertex, and then it goes up, or it can be reversed that as well, going down. The vertex is either the top or the bottom of the graph, whatever the graph has. It either has a top or a bottom. Okay, the axis of symmetry, we have an equation for it. It's x equals negative b over 2a. X equals negative b over 2a is the equation for the axis of symmetry. So this line in the middle, to find where it is, you take negative b over 2a. So negative this number in front of the x, that's b, over 2 times this number, the a. And that will tell us where that is. I'm going to give you a couple steps and an outline to follow to graph these out. Okay, your first step is to find the axis of symmetry. You use x equals negative b over 2a to do that. Your next step is to make a table. And I'm going to say plus or minus 2. So plus and minus, a positive and a negative together like that. 2. So you're going to go up 2 and down 2 from the axis of symmetry. Those points you pick don't actually matter that much. You can jimmy it a little bit, but just to make it easy, we'll just go up and down 2. Okay, step 3, fill out the table. Okay, step 4 is to plot the points. And finally, draw the parabola. I'll call that step 5. Okay, when we have a quadratic, we call that graph a parabola. So the graph of a quadratic is a parabola. Okay, I'm going to, right over here, do a problem. So I'm going to try and graph, and I hope I do it right, y equals x squared minus 6x plus 4. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is, let's put some instructions there, graph. So the first thing I need to do is find the axis of symmetry. So negative b, x equals negative b over 2a. Well, b is negative 6, so negative 6 over 2 times the value of a, and a here is 1. Okay, and if I do that stuff, I get 3. So x equals 3 is the axis of symmetry. Oops, I guess I got to scooch this over a little bit. No problem there. Okay. Make a table plus or minus 2. So what I mean is that I'm going to go up 2 and down 2 from that. So I'm going to have 5 numbers here, and the number in the middle is going to be 3. So when I say plus or minus 2, I just mean go up 2 and go down 2. Okay? So that's my axis of symmetry, x equals 3. And then from there, go up 2 and down 2. Again, how you go up and down, you know, to get a couple more points doesn't really matter. If this was 3.5, you could go 2, 1, and 6, 7, I guess. Just you need a couple points on each side. It doesn't really matter. If you put them evenly like this, though, you can copy some in a minute. So that's what I will recommend for you to do. But those points actually don't matter terribly. But you need a couple on each side. Okay. Let me see here. We have to fill out the table. So my equation is y equals, this is your x value, and the y coordinate is x squared minus 6x plus 4. So to find these y values, I have to plug these x's in. So this is 1 squared minus 6 times 1 plus 4. You can see I put in 1 for x. And if I do some math stuff there, I get negative 1. So my first point, I'm going to put the points over here just for reference, is 1, negative 1. So when the x-coordinate was 1, the y-coordinate was negative 1. Beautiful. The next point, I'm going to plug in 2. Okay, and if you plug in 2, bleep, 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 I get negative 4. So my next point is 2, negative 4. Let me see, let's put in 3. I get 3 squared minus 6 times 3 plus 4. Math stuff, that gives me negative 5. 3, negative 5. I'll go ahead and do 4 and 5 here. And you should be able to work ahead of me. Double check at least a few of these as we're going to make sure that you can punch it in and get it right. These are just order of operation questions, though. They shouldn't be something that should trip you up here. Okay, I got 4, negative 4. If I plug in 5, let me see, that gives me negative 1 again. So that's 5, negative 1. Okay, so these are the 5 points that I'm going to use to draw my parabola. Okay, so let me look at where I'm putting these points. 1, negative 1, 2, negative 4. These are all in the 4th quadrant. So I'm really just going to focus my graph where those points are. I'm already embarrassed of my lines. Look at how far apart those two are, and look how close together those two are. That's terrible and embarrassing. Maybe I can put this there and forget I made that one. That's a little better. It's still not good, though, but it's a little better. I'm going to plot these 5 points. The first point was 1, negative 1, 2, negative 4, 3, negative 5, 4, negative 4, and 5, negative 1. Okay, now a couple things to know. The axis of symmetry is at 3. I'm going to actually draw that dashed line at 3 like I did above. That's the axis of symmetry. This point here is the vertex. Okay, so this point is the bottom of the graph. When I draw my graph, that should be the bottom of the graph. That point right there should be the bottom of the graph. That's the vertex. This is the axis of symmetry. And so as I'm drawing this, it should look the same on each side. And it shouldn't come to a point. We did absolute value graphs before, and those absolute value graphs came to a point. This should not come to a point. It is a nice, smooth line through the vertex. Okay? One thing you should notice, this is the axis of symmetry. It's the same on both sides. It's no coincidence that these points are both at negative 4. And these points are both at negative 1. If you choose your points so they're the same distance from the axis of symmetry, the y value will be the same. So let me go up to my table here real quick. You can see that these two were both negative 4. I could have just skipped this one. I could have skipped this work and just said, hey, it matches that one. It's the same distance from the axis of symmetry. It's also negative 4. So I could have skipped the work on these last two. Same thing here. Negative 1 here and negative 1 there for the y coordinate. Okay? Because they're both the same distance from the axis of symmetry. Okay? They're both up 1 and down 1, so they'll come out the same on the y. Up 2 and down 2, so they'll come out both the same on the y. Beautiful. So there's my graph. I will expect you to label the axis of symmetry and the vertex. You can do it just like I did there. Let me give you a try it. And we're going to break this try it down into the steps I gave before. Let me actually, I'll just put it right there after it. So try it. Y equals negative x squared plus 4x minus 2. So we're going to do 2 of these. And the first one we'll do steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'll go through with each step with you on that. And then the second one I'm going to have you just try to do on your own. So this first one, we're going to do steps 1 through 5. If you work ahead, that's fine. But I'm going to go steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So go ahead and try it. Try to do step 1, find the axis of symmetry.